outside of Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been the most talked about superstar in the NBA this offseason, and this dates all the way back to May, when Shams of ESPN had reported that Giannis Antetokounmpo was open-minded to the idea of playing basketball outside of Milwaukee, and it brings up the question, should Giannis stay loyal to the Bucks organization? Should Giannis request a trade out of Milwaukee? And should the Bucks want to continue to keep Giannis here in the midst of his prime, even if they don't think that they're a championship contender? We're going to talk about all of that here today, and I'm going to give you my full thoughts about how I think this is ultimately going to play out. Now, let me say first and foremost, I am one of the biggest supporters of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I love the fact that he is the most selfless and humble superstar in the game of basketball. He has given everything to the city of Milwaukee, to that community, and to that organization. I respect the fact that a bona fide superstar, and to me, the best player in the game of basketball when healthy, and Giannis decides to continue to stay loyal to the organization. He's given his everything to that organization, and he wants to stay a Milwaukee Buck for life. I have so much respect for that, especially in a small market. But having said that, I also understand the fact that Giannis is a fierce competitor, one of the best players in the game of basketball today, and he wants to be able to go out there and compete for a championship. So I think that this situation has so many layers, so many different factors, but let's go ahead and actually dive into all of this. Now, when you go back to the 2021 NBA Finals, Giannis Antetokounmpo put on a performance for the ages in a closeout Game 6, and that was a moment in history that will never be forgotten because Giannis Antetokounmpo lamented himself as an all-time great in that game, winning Finals MVP, and like I said, putting on a performance for the ages. But since that very moment, the Milwaukee Bucks have not advanced further than the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, and there have been so many attributing factors to that. In this upcoming season, it doesn't look like the Bucks are going to be any better. When you go to the 2022 NBA playoffs, Chris Middleton unfortunately sustained an injury in that first round series against the Chicago Bulls. The Bucks ended up losing in the conference semifinals to the Boston Celtics in 7. Had Chris Middleton been healthy, I think that they would have won that series, but at the end of the day, nobody knows. And you go to the 2023 offseason, and the Bucks make a huge splash, acquiring Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers, and now you had a trio of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, and Chris Middleton, and it looked as if the Bucks were poised to make a deep postseason run once again. Unfortunately, injuries caught up to the Milwaukee Bucks as both Giannis and Damian Lillard both sustained injuries in those 2024 playoffs, so nobody got to see how that duo was going to perform. Then you go to the 2025 NBA trade deadline. The Bucks sent away Chris Middleton and AJ Griffin to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. This was what felt like the beginning to the end of this Bucks era and this Bucks dynasty, if that's what you want to call it, because Chris Middleton got traded away because he was an aging veteran, plus the Bucks desperately needed to get underneath that second apron, which they did, and it's not like Kyle Kuzma is an all-time great player, or hell, even a second option. And then you go to the 2025 playoffs, and the Bucks unfortunately sustained injuries once again. Damian Lillard tore his Achilles. He's going to be sidelined for the remainder of this upcoming season. And we all know that the Bucks ended up waiving Damian Lillard. They were willing to eat all of that dead cap money, and Lillard is now back with the Portland Trail Blazers. So now you have a moment in time where the Bucks have to try to keep Giannis Antetokounmpo happy, try to build a roster that is going to compete for a championship this upcoming season, and they're now going to be doing it with no Damian Lillard and no Chris Middleton. So now let's talk about their moves. Just want to take a moment to say, if you are appreciating this type of work and coverage from me, the best and easiest way to support me is by liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. It's free and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. My goal is to get this channel up to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year, and if you guys want more exclusive content from me outside of just here on YouTube, you guys can go ahead and follow me on my socials. The links to all of them will be in the description down below. But thank you guys again, and let's go ahead and get back to today's video. So now when you take a look at the way that this roster is shaping up, let's go ahead and look at the players that they re-signed this offseason. You've got Chris Livingston, Kevin Porter Jr., Bobby Portis, Taurean Prince, Ryan Rollins, Jericho Sims, as well as Gary Trent Jr. They added in this offseason Thanasis Antetokounmpo, which obviously that was a top priority, trying to get his brother back. They also brought in Cole Anthony and Gary Harris, Amir Coffey, Marcus Sears came in as an undrafted free agent from Alabama, and the biggest offseason move that I don't think anybody saw coming was Miles Turner going to the Milwaukee Bucks as an unrestricted free agent. Bucks did lose out on Pat Connaughton, who they ended up trading to the Hornets. They waived Damian Lillard, and Brook Lopez ended up signing with the Los Angeles Clippers. So now you've got a starting five that's going to feature Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as well as Miles Turner. Off the bench, you're going to have guys like Bobby Portis, Ryan Rollins, Cole Anthony, maybe Gary Harris, AJ Green, Taurean Prince, as well as maybe even Andre Jackson Jr., Jericho Sims. Who knows what this bench is going to look like, but overall, I don't trust that starting five outside of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, Miles Turner is a all-star caliber level player, but simply put it, Kyle Kuzma cannot be your third best player on your team if you are serious about competing for a championship. And it's not like the Bucks really have the salary cap and the flexibility to really go out there and try to make another big time move. But of course, I'm speculating. So now really getting into the meat of this conversation, let's look at this from a couple of different perspectives. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks front office and you ask yourself, Giannis Antetokounmpo is now going into the first year of a 3-year contract that is going to expire in 2027-28. That contract in the final year has a player option. Should we keep Giannis Antetokounmpo because he is one of the best players in the game of basketball still in his prime? Your answer simply should be yes. Or the Bucks front office can look themselves hard in the mirror and ask themselves, do we have a championship roster around Giannis? That answer is obviously no. Should we just go into a full rebuild, be able to get an absolute haul with some promising young players and build this thing from the ground up and honor and reward Giannis for everything that he's done for this organization and send him to a championship contender so that we can go into a full rebuild? That is also a very real possibility. And if you're Giannis, you need to be asking yourself those same questions, which I'm sure he does. Does he want to stay loyal to the Milwaukee Bucks? Even if it means going through hell and back with this organization, even if it means that they're not going to be competing for a championship this season. I think that's a very real question, and I think that he would say yes to that. But also, if Giannis is as serious about winning a championship as we know he is, he needs to answer the question, can I win a championship with Miles Turner and Kyle Kuzma as my two other best players? And if that answer is no, then ultimately, if I want to win a championship, it's going to have to be outside of here in Milwaukee for the foreseeable future. And here's a quote from Shams just a couple of months ago in regards to Giannis requesting a trade and all of that speculation there, because Giannis has not formally requested a trade. Here's what Shams of ESPN had to say. A lot of observing. He's been there for 12 years, so there's going to be that equity given to the Bucks to see what they do during draft week, free agency week, how much can they improve this team in their moves. He said it. He wants to compete for championships. Can the Bucks make those championship moves? His future, I've said it for the last few weeks, it won't be tied to the draft. It won't be tied to free agency. If there is a resolution on Giannis Antetokounmpo, it could be later in the summer. And here's what Giannis Antetokounmpo had to say this offseason. I love the championship we won. I love the run. I love the people we won it with. I love how it played out with us being down 2-0, me getting hurt, Chris going crazy, Drew doing his things. That's in the past. We've got to create new memories. I'm trying to win a second ring. Everybody plans to win, but me not having a second championship. I look back at my career and everybody can say he had an amazing career. First ballot Hall of Famer. But me personally, if I'm not able to win a second ring, I'm letting down myself. I really want to win a second one. Hopefully I will do it. Hopefully I'm healthy. Now that was just to provide some context really on this entire situation because Giannis has not formally requested a trade and Giannis clearly does want to compete for a championship. And I do think that those are all questions that need to be asked about Giannis and his future in Milwaukee. And here's what I will say. Do I think that Giannis is going to openly come out and formally request a trade? No, I do not. Do I think that Giannis is going to be here for the remainder of his 3-year contract with that player option in that final year? No, I do not. I think that after this upcoming season, the Bucks are going to have a long, hard look in the mirror once again, and they are going to ultimately decide that they cannot compete for a championship, and they want to honor Giannis Antetokounmpo while he's still in his prime by allowing him to go to a championship contender while also receiving fair and equitable compensation in return. And they are ultimately going to trade him next summer. That is just my prediction, but I do believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo will remain in Milwaukee for this upcoming season. And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I actually think that Giannis Antetokounmpo is in the exact same situation that Damian Lillard was in a few years ago in Portland prior to him arriving in Milwaukee, because Damian Lillard was a guy who is an all-time great player, who's obviously one of the franchise leaders for the Portland Trailblazers in a small market and a bona fide star. But Damian Lillard, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, had so much love and respect for the organization, the city, and the community at large. He wanted to stay loyal to the organization, but ultimately knew if he was going to win a championship, especially with the window of opportunity that was presented in Portland at that moment in time, they were not going to be competing for a championship. And Portland was moving in a different direction at that point after they were now trying to go into a rebuild. Now, Giannis is in a similar situation in Milwaukee, where he understands that they've had their postseason runs. They've obviously been successful, but it is the beginning to the end. After Chris Middleton got traded away, there's no longer a Damian Lillard there. Giannis is probably not going to win a championship in Milwaukee in the near future with the way that their cap is, with their limited players that they have around Giannis Antetokounmpo. And this is a very similar situation for Giannis right now. So really, point blank period, I don't think that the Bucks should trade Giannis Antetokounmpo this season. I do believe that they should let it rock out, but my honest heart and head is telling me that next summer, Giannis Antetokounmpo will no longer be in Milwaukee, and he's ultimately going to be playing for another team. And I do believe that Bucks fans, of course, are going to support Giannis no matter where he goes because of everything that he's done for that organization and that community. But Bucks fans and NBA fans, please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you guys make of all the rumors this offseason? And I just wanted to finally give my thoughts about how I felt about this Giannis situation and what I actually am predicting that is going to happen. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But thank you guys once again for all of your continuous support. It doesn't go unnoticed. If you guys want more exclusive content from me outside of just here on YouTube, the best and easiest way to support me outside of here is by following me on my socials for more exclusive content. But otherwise, thank you guys so much. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.